let's continue along, Frank. Wrap up our mid-season awards week with a couple of big ones here. We'll start with the scoring awards, the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy. Let's go with the scoring race where, I mean, Nathan MacKinnon has a chance to kind of go wire to wire with this thing. He's 5 points clear of the second place Leon Draisaitl right now. And you know, Connor McDavid, you never quite want to count him out. He's 8 back of MacKinnon. They also have a game in hand. Nikita Kucherov's in the mix. He's got a couple of games in hand. He's only 7 points back. You see, it kind of is MacKinnon versus the field, considering he's minus 125. Which side of that would you take?
There's not a lot of value, but I would lean toward MacKinnon. The pace that he's been on this year, I think the dominance that he's had, that leads us into the next part of our conversation, which is the midseason awards and the Hart Trophy. I know he's the favorite for the Art Ross, but in submitting my ballot for midseason awards at Daily Faceoff, I have Nathan MacKinnon at the top of my ballot for the Hart too. And I have Leon Draisaitl number 2. It is close. If I had to pick a second place finisher for Art Ross, my money wouldn't be on McDavid. It would be on Draisaitl at plus 340. But my Hart ballot today, it's something like MacKinnon, Draisaitl. I'd have to rethink it a little bit because the Canucks, you know, since I cast the ballot late last week, the Canucks have fallen out of the playoffs. You can't have a Hart Trophy winner that's out of the playoffs, but I had Quinn Hughes 3, Kirill Kaprizov 4, and Zach Werenski 5.
Interesting. I'll ask you a follow-up on the Hart Trophy in just a second, but to put a cap on the scoring awards, Leon Draisaitl also leading the way for the Rocket Richard. He is clearly the odds-on favorite there. 4 goals clear of second place Sam Reinhart and Mark Scheifele, who's in the mix as well. But I did want to ask you about, and this might sound weird, but like Austin Matthews, we've seen him go on these runs where he's like a goal a game for an entire month. If you were to do that, he would maybe get himself back in the mix. He's at 17 goals right now, so 14 back. Is that just insurmountable considering his health issues?
I think it is, and not even just because of the health issues. I think to make up that much ground, like you would need these guys to also stop scoring. And I just don't believe that Draisaitl, Reinhart, Point, even Kyle Connor, all these guys are going to go quiet at the same time. So that plus the health issue, I think to me kind of makes it a non-starter. Like it doesn't feel like he's a guarantee to play every game the rest of the season based on what we know or think we know about the injury and how difficult it's been and the hints that he's given us about hoping that he's kind of fixed it. I think it's a pipe dream at this point. But I mean, I think it's so fascinating that we're having this midseason awards scoring race and Hart Trophy debate on the day after you see Edmonton and Colorado go head to head. I mean, it fits perfectly. I know you watched intently that game last night, but I think an incredible statement by the Oilers too. Down 3-0, first 12 minutes of the game on the road, second night of back-to-backs to come all the way back, not give up any more in the process and knock off the Avs. And by the way, where MacKinnon has been next level lights out on home ice, he's got points in 59 of his last 56 or 59 of his last 64 games on home ice. Big reason why I've got him atop my midseason Hart Trophy ballot. But for me, I think the Oilers made a statement about who might the best team in the NHL be right now.
I think they did as well. And one thing that is really impressive about this run that they've been on, Frank, in the month of January, they are 8-1. And out of those, 7-1, and out of those 8 games, only 2 of them have been on home ice. They've played in Seattle, Boston, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Minnesota, and Colorado, winning every one of those except the Pittsburgh game. They played across every time zone and only come home for one night, and it was the night they beat the LA Kings 1-0. I think they've absolutely made a statement, and I think that ties in really nicely to my Hart Trophy ballot. Leon Draisaitl is the odds-on favorite right now at Bet365. And I think a lot of people sit there and go, well, come on, it can't be Leon because Connor exists. But if you watch this team on a day-to-day basis, there is no doubt who their driver and who their best player has been. It's Leon Draisaitl. And my counterpoint to the whole, well, it can't be Leon because it's Connor, so how truly valuable could one of them be? Nathan MacKinnon has Mikko Rantanen. He is also and top Cale 5 McCarr. In league scoring. And Cale Makar. Like, if you're going to make that argument against Draisaitl, it dead on applies to MacKinnon as well. Most game winners at 9, 4 of them coming in overtime. Again, I just think this is Leon Draisaitl deserves to be the front runner in my mind.
Look, I think it's a worthy argument, and obviously me having him at 2, I'm a believer and certainly not skeptical at all of his candidacy, and I don't think this is the year to be making those claims about the supporting cast. I just think when you look at Colorado's year, what they've had to overcome is a lot more difficult than what the Oilers were looking at. Yeah, the Oilers were, 0-3 to start the year, and everyone was asking the same questions as the year prior. But the difference to me is the injuries that Colorado had and the pieces that they were missing up front, the terrible goaltending that they got week after week. That, yeah, MacKinnon basically, it was a 3-pronged effort, but MacKinnon, as the leader of that group and the heartbeat of everything that happens in Colorado, those 3 players carried that team to a 500 start through the first month and a half of the season, while being absolutely decimated by injury. So I just think in terms of value, as good as Draisaitl has been, I think right now I have MacKinnon just a smidge ahead of that.
So let me ask you about a couple of other guys, because you mentioned Quinn Hughes, and if the Canucks aren't in the playoffs, I guess it's a bit of a moot point, but it takes a lot for a defenseman to win MVP. It also takes a lot for a goalie to win MVP. Is there anything one of those 2 guys can do to maybe not win, but like get into your top 3 by the end of the season?
Well, yeah, right now Hughes is my 3rd. And so what he would have to do is continue to play at a lights out level. Another circumstance where they've had some injuries, they've had drama, they've had a lot of things pop up, and yet quietly, stoically, Hughes has been that player that every single night is raising his level for the Canucks, kind of single-handedly keeping them in the mix. Different goalies have played. He's had different partners. Filip Hronek missed a huge chunk of time. Their power play has been all over the place and in flux, and yet he's the one guy you can rely on in Vancouver to give you what you need.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.